For 30 plus years, I've been sitting in meetings talking to clients, and they wanted to say they love their speeds and feeds. They love how the product was built. They love, the secret sauce in the product. And it's an argument I've had since the dawn of time, which is the audience doesn't care about how the product works. What they care about is how it makes their life better, cheaper, faster. That's what they care about. And yet we continually see companies coming out with the speeds and feeds, and it turns off the buyer.
Welcome back to the High Ticket Systems podcast, where we discuss marketing, sales, client acquisition, AI, and everything in between. My guest today ran her own B2B communications agency for 11 years, taught PR as a tenured professor for over a decade, and now she's co-founded the Nova Method, a firm that blends AI-driven strategy with audience-first marketing to help brands stop broadcasting and start resonating. Everyone, please welcome Mrs. Michelle Baum.
Hi, Jordan.
How you doing? We're super excited to have you on.
I'm happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Of course. The first question that we have for you is, can you tell us the origin of the business? How did you essentially pivot from the communications background into what you now call the Nova Method? What was the foundational problem you were trying to solve?
Well, I would boil it down to say that the problem we were trying to solve is the disconnect between brands and the audiences they're targeting. And what I mean by that is for 30 plus years, I've been sitting in meetings talking to clients, and they wanted to say they love their speeds and feeds. They love how the product was built. They love, the secret sauce in the product. We primarily focus on B2B technology, finance, and healthcare clients. So we're dealing often with a lot of technology, a lot of complex products and services. And it's an argument that I've had since the dawn of time, which is the audience doesn't care about how the product works. What they care about is how it makes their life better, cheaper, faster. Yeah. So,
The end result, right? The end result.
yes, that's what they care about. And yet we continually see companies coming out with the speeds and feeds, and it turns off the buyer. And so we really wanted to stop the madness and finally say, look, we've been doing this for a really long time, and this dynamic has not changed in all of this time, and we can change that. So I would say that is the primary problem that we were trying to solve.
Thank you for the insight. And I think it's so funny, no offense to any business out there, that feels the urge to just explain the company story to every person they speak to. But I always give this example that I just thought of the other day. Like, let's look at a chair, okay? I bet no one in the world cares about the story behind the freaking chair and how it came to be,
Right.
right? What do we want? We want the ability to sit down in the chair. That's all we want, you know? And if we're one day curious about, the chair story and how it became to be, we'll ask.
Right.
But until we ask, just give us the chair. That's all we want.
That's right.
You know?
And when you're at the top of the funnel, when you're just learning about a brand or about a product or service, that's the last thing on their mind is how does this thing work?
Exactly. With the Nova Method, how new is this adventure, or how long or seasoned is the Nova Method?
We launched the Nova Method in May of 2025. I say we because it's myself and my partner, Christine Perquette. But we've been around forever. And I say that because Christine and I met in the early 90s, and we've worked together multiple times over the years. And so this venture is new. It's less than a year old, but we've both been in the industry for many, many years.
No, absolutely. Especially when you combine the years of experience, it's probably a good amount. Very, very seasoned, very
It's a
experienced.
nice way to say it, Jordan. Yeah.
I'm trying my best.
Good
You
job.
look great. Thank you. Let's see. Who would you say? I know you hinted at it earlier, but who would you say your services serves best?
I would say it would be, well, B2B tech, finance, and healthcare companies. But I would say it's a company that has probably engaged in public relations or marketing in the past or now, and they're not getting the results they thought they were going to get. Then they come to us, and we come at it from a little bit of a different way. Most agencies will say, great, we're going to dig right in and get you coverage as quickly as we can. And we say, let's take a step back. And we have a proprietary framework. It's called assimilate, align, and activate. And it forces us to say, let's look at the audience. And what do you know about the audience? And mostly they're going to say, well, we have our ICPs. And I say, okay, well, when did you create those? Maybe a year ago, maybe 5 years ago. When's the last time you looked at them? When's the last time you listened to what your audience had to say? When's the last time you surveyed your audience? And so we really try to dig into that first because that's how everything becomes successful. If we don't know who we're trying to reach, if we don't really know, granularly know who we're trying to reach, then the messages are not going to land. So I would say a company that hasn't come at it quite the same way will be interested in how we approach it. And I think they'll be pretty surprised by the results.
Gotcha. Thanks for the insights there. So imagine I'm a B2B tech company, right? I own a SaaS product. And what is the end result that I would want to achieve by working with you in the Nova method?
Well, a brand awareness, first of all, which you can't buy it if you don't know it exists, right? So I always say they have to know you exist first, and they have to know what your differentiators are, and they have to know what your company's mission is and why you exist and how do you service your clients and how do you show up as an organization. So all of those things consumers more and more want to and need to know, whether you're a B2B buyer or a B2B, or I'm sorry, a B2B2C buyer or a B2C buyer. So at the end of the day, the buyers are all human beings and they want to know who they're working with and they want to know what the company is all about and what you stand for. And that's increasingly of interest to buyers. So I would say that our job is to make sure that the company is, we're educating the market about how who the companies are and how they should be perceived. So I look at myself as an educator, and yes, I used to be one, as you mentioned, but I do view my job as a public relations person as an educator for brands.
When you, thank you. Which channel do you utilize, I suppose, when you are helping a company increase their brand awareness? Is it through publications in articles or magazines? Is it their website, other marketing channels?
Yes, all of the above. It just really
Okay,
depends
cool.
on who their target audience is. So
Right.
it's less about yay, we want to be on Facebook, but if you're a B2B company and your buyers aren't on Facebook, that's not where they're making their buying decisions, then there's no point in putting an effort to Facebook. So we really,
Right.
again, that's where it all starts with who is your audience? Where are they? Where are they getting their information? How are they educating themselves? And that's where we focus our efforts on. So it could be publications, it could be podcasts, it could be Substack, it could be Reddit, it could be broadcast. Even if people don't watch the news as we traditionally once did, those clips are still being shared across all of those other platforms. And so it's really important that we think about traditional, but also the non traditional and where folks are showing up today.
Yeah, I feel like if you're putting effort into Facebook, but your audience is on LinkedIn or YouTube as an example, then why are you wasting time on Facebook? And it's kind of interesting. I mean, you would probably testify to this more than I, but people don't actually know that. They think, oh, I use Facebook all the time. Like Facebook's my favorite platform. I'm gonna go and post content or share content on Facebook. But like their audience, their ICP is nowhere near
No.
Facebook. It's just interesting how people don't think about that.
And I think, if I'm on Facebook, I'm sharing pictures of my kids, so grandma in Indiana can see, what's going on or how they've grown or what they did in, a volleyball game or a track meet. I'm not there because I want to think about my job, And so I see all of these companies that have a slew of social channels linked on their websites. And I say that company is not aligned with their target audience and where people really want to get information about this particular product or service as it relates to their business life, even versus their personal life. All of those things should be
Gotcha.
taken into consideration.
Does that help with? Because I know you and I talked on our initial phone call, like AI SEO. Does having more or less um, like social media channels attached to your website, is that actually a benefit or does it hinder you if you have more channels where your ICP is actually not living on?
From an AI SEO standpoint, I think the verdict's still out on that. We know that earned media is a huge feeder of AI answers. So when you type in something and you get an answer back, AI is pulling from a lot from earned media and things like that to create the story about the organization or the product or service or whatever you're asking it about. So we know earned media works. As far as if you have a social channel on your site, I don't know that that does much for AI or SEO. So
Okay,
I think
yeah, I
it's
was.
like a glaring, hey, we don't know who our audience is and what they where they hang out. I don't know.
That's funny. That's funny. Thank you. In regards to actually earning earned media, I feel like that is such a challenge. I mean, you're definitely the expert in that space, but how? What are some tips, tricks, strategies, advice that you can give someone who's looking to land an earned media spot?
Hire the Nova method.
Ah, great answer. Great answer.
No, I mean, again, when we say on our website, first thing you see when you go to the novamethod.com is it's not about you, and it's true. It's not it's about, and when we're working with reporters and editors, it's about them. It's about what they need. It's about the story that they're trying to tell. And so we need to listen to what the journalists want and need and make sure we can deliver it. And if you can't, or you're trying to shoehorn something that's just not going to work, back off and let others get their information there. And I think it's the dance. It's knowing what the reporter needs and knowing that you can deliver it and deliver it quickly and deliver it seamlessly and be concise about it. And it's not, stop the back and forth. It's just about being efficient and about knowing how to deliver a story in the most efficient way possible so that they can do their jobs. The pressure on reporters today is, well, I can't imagine it. I'm not in their shoes, but I can't imagine it. So the more we can do to help them, the better.
It doesn't make sense to try to, let's say the journalist or editor is looking for story B, but you have story A. Like you said, it's not a good fit for the journalist. Yet what you're proposing is that business owners with story A pressure and push and try to sell the editor on story A, even though that's not what they want, right?
Yeah.
Gotcha. I feel like that's actually hindering company A or story A in the long term, right? Like, wouldn't you think, oh, they don't like this angle? But let me ask you a question though. From an editor's standpoint, do they ever reject story A and say why it was rejected? Or do they just say,
Very
no,
rarely. They don't
you
have
know?
time to explain their decisions. No, very rarely. And let me just clarify that. I would say that journalists do appreciate sometimes if you're able to say, oftentimes we'll say, "Hey, we read this article. This is an amazing article, and that it's bringing to light something new. Have you thought about this?" And so we might expand what they're already covering or suggest they look at it from a different lens. So that's sort of a different way of going about it. But trying to shoehorn your way into something typically doesn't land well.
Right, right, right. No, definitely. Let's see. In regards to client acquisition, what are some things that you utilize internally between you and the co-founder?
Well, I would say we utilize our reputations, referrals, and I would say thought leadership as well. I mean, we certainly have a tech stack and we have, a strategic way of continuing to associate our reputations with this new entity, which is the Nova method. So Chris and I have been around for a long time and we've been associated with various brands. So being associated with the Nova method is new and that takes some time and education. But I would say, primarily our clients come from reputation and referrals. We have several clients who we've worked with for many years, and they just take us, to their next adventure. And those are our wonderful contacts that we deeply appreciate. Newer customers that we've worked with have been for I would say mostly reputation. Somebody has heard about us, or somebody else had, I guess, referred us, or we wrote something and it triggered a thought, and they reached out and we talked about it. So I would say those three are the primary ways we're winning new business today.
Gotcha, gotcha. Okay, thanks for the insights there. In regards to, I mean, you guys have tons of case studies, right? So I feel like the reputation part and like building trust is essentially already taken care of because you and Chris, right,
Yep.
already have amazing case studies. With that being said, can you give us an example of one of the case studies working with ABC client? You guys stepped in, sprinkled your magic sauce, and they got X result.
Yes. I would say Hack the Box is a really recent one. We now I'm gonna have to double check this because I don't have it off the top of my head. But so Hack the Box came to us last summer, and they are a company based in Athens, Greece. They are very well known in Europe, lesser known in the US. And they provide upskilling services and training for cybersecurity professionals, especially in the age of AI. This is incredibly important. They have so much education that they provide, as well as capture the flag events that put professionals in real world scenarios. They're doing a ton with AI right now to help upskill cybersecurity professionals in that realm, and using human in the loop scenarios as well. So they came to us and said, we need to expand our brand in the United States, as well as maintain our reputation in Europe. We also need to make sure that the enterprise audience knows who we are and knows that we're not just going for the onesies and twosies users, but we're really adept at working with large enterprises and government agencies. And so within 4 months, I believe it's 4 months. And again, I'll have to double check this. I just posted it on LinkedIn, but I posted the latest results, and I think it was 92% share of voice compared to the top three competitors within 4 months. That is pretty dramatic. And again, we started with who are you trying to reach and what is it that you need to say? And it's not what you need to say, it's what they need to hear. So again, it's like flipping the switch. Nobody cares about how your stuff works, right? It's like, what is the challenge that these people are faced with? If you're an enterprise CISO and you're trying to figure out how you're going to upskill your team in the most realistic way, and it's not just upskill in cybersecurity, it's cybersecurity warfare that involves AI. What are you going to do? And how are you going to measure that? And how are you going to prove it to your board? And how are you going to justify the spend? And so it's those types of things. So we really get into it. We really try to understand who the target audience is and what they're dealing with on a day-to-day basis. And that informs the types of stories that we can tell. And that helps us understand how we need to educate people. And that's exactly what we did. And the results speak for themselves.
No, that's super awesome. That's an amazing case study. Y'all should be proud.
Yeah, we are. We are really proud. And they're a great client. They're a wonderful client. They have so much going on with the organization. They're growing like mad. And it's kind of an honor, I would say, to be associated with their brand.
I think now cybersecurity is more important than ever because just how probably you and I are utilizing AI for good, right? There's people out there utilizing AI for
Yeah,
bad
yeah.
and like create like automations to scan servers, to extract IPs, to just completely destroy lives and organizations. So kudos to y'all for not doing that.
Yep. All in the
Well, because
day's
we need it,
work, Jordan.
I do have a quick question. What exactly? How did you help them spread out their message to their ICP, which is cybersecurity enterprise clients?
Yeah, so multiple ways, but I would say they have really amazing executive. They have executive team that comes at it from, they've got an AI expert, they've got curriculum expert, they've got, their CEO built this with his, bare hands from the ground up, but truly did. And so they've also just hired a new president Gib Witham, who came from the investor community and was on their board at one point, and now he's joined the company, which speaks volumes. That you believe so much in a brand. So a lot of it had to do with thought leadership and continues to have to do with thought leadership. It's telling those stories and mapping what the organization can say with what the target audience needs to know about how to upskill cybersecurity professionals. So we've worked with the executives a lot to tell stories through contributed thought leadership, through speaking opportunities, through media interviews. We've worked with reporters all over, obviously, the US as well as Europe. So we continue to tell the stories. We've also, Hack the Box has quite a bit of data. They've got, like, again, I'm not good with numbers, but I believe they have like 4 million users in their community. And so they Hack the Box has been able to gather an unprecedented amount of data as to what's going on and to be able to tell real time stories about the trends that are happening in the industry. So this is where it's a wonderful partnership because they have access to information that helps us do our jobs better. So, I mean, that's incredibly helpful, and the media really appreciates that type of insight. So it's a wonderful partnership.
No, for sure. In regards to keeping, maintaining, and retaining client relationships, how does one go about that from your perspective?
To me, it's all based on trust. So, and I was thinking about this the other day because we do have several people we've known and worked with for many, many years. And it truly is based on trust. And we're not selling really a product, right? We're selling people's ideas, we're selling counsel. And you have to trust that we know what we're talking about. You have to trust that when we push back and you're going to go to your executive team, that you're presenting the right counsel, right? Because it's not me typically that's having that conversation. It is the CMO or the VP of marketing. And so we have to be very confident in the counsel that we're providing. And so because of that, those internal contacts have to be very trustworthy, and they have to be confident in our counsel. And so I would say, I mean, that's the deal. They have to know that we've got their backs, and that we're not going to fail them, and that we're always going to be there. It really is that type of relationship. And I mean, I'd say nobody has higher expectations than I do. So, and neither do my team too. Like, a client's never going to have higher expectations than we are. So, in that, they know that, we're always going to show up and do the best that we can, and that we've always got their back. And that's gold.
I feel like you have a what we call a dream business model and client retention model. I feel like everyone wants to work with a handful of clients for a long, long period of time, and not the churn and burn that some agencies experience, you know? And when you are dealing with enterprise clients, board members, and you have an idea because they paid you for your consulting, and you share that idea with them, and they're not fully on board with it. How do you convey your message in a way that essentially shifts their mindset to no, you should take our idea?
Research. I
What's the
research.
data?
Research. I mean, in most cases, anything that's been done or anything we counsel, I mean, of course we have new and great creative ideas, but there's always somebody who's done something similar in some vein. And so really, if you do the research well, you can show. And we do this a lot when it comes to crisis communications, and they're like, what do we do? Well, we can show you what to do, and we can show you what not to do, based on comparative, examples. And you can do that in communications as well. And I think showing them brands that they respect, uh, doing things right and doing things maybe not as well as you want them to, it can turn the needle. And you also, when you're in marketing and public relations, there has to be some A/B testing along the way, right? We have to try new things. And so having a little bit of flexibility to be able to do that, as well as basing it on research and data. Um, that's typically how we do it.
I feel like you can't argue with that. You know, I used to date a girl. She was a data scientist at a very well known institute, and she loved that aspect about her profession, where like the data's never wrong. The data never lies. You
Yeah.
know, like I wish I was pulling it from God knows where, but this is the facts. We should take a course of action based on this here. Now, whenever you do present data and research and facts to these said clients, do they actually really give you pushback frequently, or is it very, very on rare occasions that they give you pushback on your consulting advice because you do have the data and research?
No, I don't know if it's that they push back. Honestly, I would still say that the pushback comes from um, it's more about the positioning, right? It's more about what executives want to say versus what the audience needs to hear. So
Got it.
that's, it might not be the data. It just is a lot around how you approach something or how you say something or how you position something. And, you know, there has to be a dance and you have to collaborate. And no, I don't think any one person is necessarily always right. Um, there has to be in informed research, uh, and gut instinct and um, collaboration to get to the final answer. So I don't know if it's that they're it's not really a lot of argument, I would say. It's just more, let's get on the phone and chat through this and talk about this. And, let me hear where you're coming from and let me tell you where I'm coming from. And we usually figure it out that way. But the data typically doesn't lie, and neither do real life case scenarios where you find a company go from hot to not really quick.
I am curious, what led you into this profession originally? Like, I guess looking back when you first started into your career, why communications?
I'm not good at math.
You are correct.
No, I mean, really though, when I went to college, I started out in elementary education actually, and I ended up getting my master's in education years and years later. Um, but I decided to go. I was the sports editor of my school newspaper in high school, and I loved it. And then I went to journalism school at the University of Iowa, and I loved that. But I thought, oh man, I don't know if I could be a reporter and be on deadline multiple times a day to deliver these articles. I like to think through and be a little bit more, I guess strategic, and I like the storytelling. So anyway, I did an internship when I was in college and found public relations because there was no public relations class when I was in college. So I had to go do it and seek it out for myself, and I loved it, and I've loved it ever since. It's been a great career.
That's awesome. Hold on. I know you and I were talking a bit before the show about like AI and AI agents. Do you utilize any AI agents internally or even for your clients on behalf of your clients?
We do, yes. We have agents for our individual clients. We're also building workflows right now. We're trying to figure that out. And I think everybody is like, I've talked to so many people in the last 6 months, just trying to figure out what can we operationalize, what should we operationalize. We're still very much of the human first mindset, so that's never going to change. But certainly, there's ways to find efficiency, and we're trying to figure out what those efficiencies should be and where those efficiencies should come from. And we haven't figured that out yet. And no one has had like the magic answer for us yet. So it's a work in progress, as I believe as it is with everyone. I think we're all trying to figure this out right now, and we're trying to be smart about it. So I think we're more. It's funny. I would say we're more ahead of trying to help our clients figure out AI optimization and visibility than we are probably with our internal workflows and how we internally use AI and agents.
That is very,
Isn't that funny?
that is it. No, it is because I am the same way. I obviously want to give my clients the best results so we can maintain the relationship, right? And when I have an idea, I tend to optimize it within their business first before I optimize it in mine. And that probably sounds horrible. I'm not testing the idea
I know.
on their company. Like, no, like I'm optimizing, meaning making better what's already working for them, and they obviously tend to like that for me.
Yeah.
I would say from a media, I want to throw in like its slash content perspective, something that we use internally is essentially content research for your top three competitors. And this goes for YouTube, thought leadership, short reels on Instagram, Facebook, etc. It will extract all that information, plug it into a doc, and then based on that workflow, it will then recreate that amazing, famous, I don't know, thought leadership or video and kind of repurpose it for your own brand. I have no idea if that will help efficiencies for the Nova method, but on the topic of content, I think that might be beneficial.
That would be super cool. Like those are the types of things that we're looking at, is how do we marry that with data with, creativity and strategy and all of it. So we should talk after.
For sure. I was speaking with someone else about this, and they actually gave me pretty. I knew this intuitively, but the way they framed it just made a lot of sense. They said AI is essentially like 80/20. 80% of the work can be performed by AI to increase efficiency and productivity. The remaining 20% needs to be a human. Now, where does that human actually live? She said the 10% is on the front end, and the 10% is on the back end.
Mm.
Now, where the 10% of the front end is all the context that you're giving said AI agent, right? With you, Michelle, you being an absolute expert in earned media, in public relations, communications, your AI agent will outperform my AI agent on that said subject, right? Because you have way more context than I do. And then of course you put the context in, you let AI spit out whatever it's going to spit out. And then the last 10% is essentially refining, polishing, human in the loop. You used that phrase earlier
Mhm.
to making sure it's not, dog crap, one might say, or saying something that it shouldn't say.
Right.
However, the more context you give on the front end, the more what we call one shots, where you can have one input and it spits out the perfect output within one shot or one prompt. Um, and so, yeah, hopefully that kind of makes sense.
Yes, it totally makes sense. Yes, and I think, that's where we're really trying to figure that out. Reporters today, they don't want AI generated content. They've actually started asking that we sign contracts saying, how much of this was generated by AI and or confirm that this was not created by AI. And so, there's some interesting market dynamics that are happening right now as we all try to figure out where AI fits into our worlds and how we can use it for efficiencies without abandoning quality type work. And so, those are the struggles that we're working with right now and trying to see how is the market going to play this out and will that last or will that go away? But it's an interesting dynamic.
I think that's going to go away. Let me explain why. The podcast I had earlier today was with an SEO
Hmm.
guru, I might say. He said about a year and a half, 2 years ago, when AI, first hit the scene, Google shut that down. No AI blogs, no AI posts, no AI articles, etc. It would actually hurt your domain reputation if Google's AI detected your blog post was written by AI.
Hmm.
And then after a while, Google was like, no one's listening. Everyone's utilizing AI. They're not going to listen to us. So here's what we have to do. If it's like horribly written AI, copy and paste ChatGPT into a blog post, it will hurt your domain reputation. However, if you refine it, polish it, make it look like it was semi written by AI, Google will play in your favor.
Hmm.
And I think the same scenario and approach is happening in the editorial world because who doesn't use AI for like almost everything in their business? I'm pretty sure the editor who is saying don't use AI uses AI in some form, way, or another. You know what I
He
mean?
probably wrote it to write the contract. I'm just kidding.
But so I think just give it like hopefully 6 months, maybe 12 months, where that is going to change. And one more
Yeah.
thing I want to add, Grammarly. I'm not sure if you utilize Grammarly at all.
Yeah.
You perfect. I could not spell to save my life. If it was like win in a spelling bee or die, I'm dead. Like I'm not surviving the freaking spelling bee. I promise you that. But I'll take a template that Claude gives me or whatever. I'll upload it into a Google Doc so I can edit it. And even after I edit it and I change, I rephrase everything, Grammarly still says that the probability that this was written by AI is like significant. So I'm starting to think, because AI is constantly changing, and I can say, hey, chat, don't write like X, write like Y. Even if I try to change the style of the text, it was still written by AI. And now Grammarly is being updated and fed all this information from all the LLMs. So it just makes it impossible that almost all text will seem like it's written by a human, opposed to AI. So with you being in that world, how does one combat that or overcome that from your perspective?
Yeah. I mean, we've tried all kinds of different things, really. I mean, we're using we have done interviews with the subject matter experts, and then we use the transcripts and we put it in AI through our agentic, AI agents to create, first drafts. We tried that for a while, but while it was speed and efficiency, and it was the original, ideas from this person, we would have to go back and rewrite the whole thing. So because when you put it through GPT-0 or Pangram, it's coming back as like 90% AI, and that's after we've, basically rewritten the original draft that AI churned out. So we wouldn't feel right about submitting something like that. So we end up spending more time. We have found we're spending more time editing than we did before. So again, it doesn't provide the efficiency we want it to, because we're spending just as much time editing anyway. And the teams were like, this doesn't work. So again, like everyone else, we're still trying to figure it out, because the quality is number one in the work that we do. And reporters are only going to work with you so long. If you give them, like you were saying, if you give them like crap, they're going to be like, yeah, I'm not working with you again, Michelle. So I mean, we don't really get second chances very often, so we have to do it right the first time.
Right. So if I'm hearing you correctly, you're saying you would take the TXT doc or the transcript from an interview with a thought leader, expert leader, plug that into an AI model, it would spit out the first draft, and then automatically would classify, hey, this is AI written. Cool. So now what you're saying is you just bypass the AI process. You take the transcript from the interview you did, and then you manually edit it, draft it up, you were saying?
Yeah, we would take the AI generated version and then we would completely rewrite it and obviously remove any of the AI pattern language and things like that. And and rewrite it so that it is, heavily rewritten, but that would still churn out 85-90% AI written. Even if we had changed every single sentence in one way or another, it was still being detected by Pangram and GPT-0, which,
That's
it's like we're writers. It's what we do. So it's faster for us sometimes to just write it. And then we can
right.
use AI to fine tune it if we need to. And of course, we have Grammarly and all kinds of other, tools that we use to make sure that it's crisp. But, um, you know, again, trial and error. We're trying different things to figure out what is going to produce the best result for the client and for the reporter.
Absolutely. You pause. If you don't want to answer this, that's completely fine.
Okay.
But you brought up working with an engineer in, I think, Michigan. Was that on a different topic than what you and I are talking about right now for AI agentic workflows?
No,
Or was that
no, he helps us with that, and the AI optimization and visibility tools that we've rolled out.
do you want to talk about that briefly?
Sure.
Perfect. So I'm a novice, okay? I have no idea what the hell you're talking about. What the heck is an AI visibility tool?
I'm a novice too. Who isn't right now? I'm like, we're all novices. So basically, what we've been trying to figure out is, I mean, Gartner just came out with this report, and I mean, you see it all over LinkedIn that PR is back, and I'm like, well, PR never went away, but media relations,
Right.
a lot of people have been saying, well, maybe media relations isn't as valuable as it was at one time. Back in the '90s, maybe it was really important, and now who's reading these magazines? The argument to that is everybody's reading magazines. They just might not be reading the actual magazine. They might be sharing it. They might be using it at a trade show. The way information is shared is different, but the information is still information. So now we've come out that AI is pulling from earned media in order to devise answers to questions that are being asked on AI. So how do you show up in those prompts? How do you say, hey, I want the Nova method to show up when they ask, who is the best PR firm in the world versus, ABC company? How do I make that happen? Well, I mean, it's kind of cool in my opinion because AI is pulling from um, earned media, it's pulling from your website, it's pulling from all different sources. And your website is one of your primary sources of truth. That is where you're telling your story. It's where you're informing your audiences about products and services and things that you offer. And so oftentimes we see that AI is pulling from websites. And so we can look at the prompts through this AI tool, AI service that we have called Perplexity Index that will look at your organization and compared to up to your top three competitors and show what prompts are most likely to be asked of you based on the story that you're telling on your website, based on the information that you're sharing. You can then look at those prompts and say, holy crap, this isn't at all what we want people to ask, which means your
Mm,
website is not in alignment with what your target audience is saying.
yes.
So again, it all comes back to how are you aligning with your target audience? And so Perplexity Index can tell you, based on the story you're telling on your website, these are the prompts that would most likely be asked. And if these are the questions that are being asked, you're most likely to show up within those answers. So then you say, if those are not the prompts I want people to ask, then I need to tell a different story on my website. So that's Perplexity Index. We also have Site Optimizer. And Site Optimizer is the actual structured data that you would have to put onto your website in order to help you more optimally show up in these prompts. So, yes, it is about the story you tell, it's about the earned media, it's about the whole body of information about your brand, but it is also about the actual structured data, which I am not like, I'm a novice, but it's the actual structured data that your website developer would need to put into the back end to help optimize specific pages that will help you show up faster, better, more clearly on in these AI tools.
I think this is so valuable, and I think businesses need to start looking at this more seriously. People who work at, like a normal job, like Walmart, Target, no disrespect to them, they're just probably not utilizing AI at the level or on the level that you and I are utilizing it, right? Now, I see the benefit if you are a B2B company because, like I said, businesses utilize AI more than more than consumers. So, and what's even more interesting is I spoke with someone earlier about this. They said 67% of people, when they search something into the LLM, they do not verify it with Google. I'll throw out an example. Who is the best HVAC company near Salt Lake City, Utah, where I live? 67% of people will take the answer from chat or an LLM and say, okay, this is the best one. They're not going to type in the same search within Google and verify it. Over half, a third, more than a third, 67%.
It's crazy.
You know? Yeah, and that number is increasing daily and obviously year over year, right? Question,
Hmm.
and again, you don't have to answer. Does someone does someone internally technically work on
Pass. No,
that
I'm
side?
just kidding. I'm just kidding.
Stop asking me questions. Does someone internally work on that side of the business, the AI SEO optimization? Like, is it Chris or like another internal
You mean for our
contractor?
clients?
Yeah.
Not yet, but it's coming. I mean, you can see it on LinkedIn with all the posts that are coming up, job postings that are coming up, and we are seeing it. I mean, it's a dream of ours to be able to have someone within our organization that will serve in that role. I mean, we have someone now who is a part of our business, but they're more on the consulting side, and we'd love to have their time full time, because I mean the possibilities are endless. But no,
I
they don't have anyone. The majority, to answer your question, the majority, no, they don't. Not yet. It's coming.
right. No, for sure, for sure. Michelle, please forgive me. Is your top green?
It is.
And I said you were wearing all black earlier.
I know.
You're like, is it colorblind? What the frick is
No,
wrong
well,
with
I
this
wasn't
guy?
sure. I wasn't sure. I do have friends who are colorblind, so I was like, oh, also my chair is also green, but you couldn't tell
That's
that. You
green.
can't really tell that either. So I'm like, whatever color it looks like. I'm in my basement office, and it's like I call this little room my she-hole instead of my man
Yeah.
cave.
Mhm.
And it's literally like my little room in the house, and I am in a dark corner of a room just typing away all day long.
That's so funny. Little dungeon, as my family calls it.
Yes.
I love the girl in the back though, the
Thank you.
flowers.
Thank
That's
you.
great, for sure. So, looking forward over the next 12 to 24 months, what is something that Michelle and the Nova Method is looking forward to? Any major things in the pipeline?
Domination. No.
Yes, number one, baby.
Oh, grow. I would say growth. Like we want to scale and grow. Like we've taken this last year and been super intentional about what we're doing, growing slowly, making sure that we have the foundations in place, making sure that we have our tech stack, the foundations of our tech stack in place. And we've done a really good job of holding ourselves back a little bit to make sure that we're not growing too fast. I think 2026, 2027 are going to be really key years for growth for us, and we're looking forward to that. But we are very cognizant of making sure that as we grow, we never sacrifice quality for growth. And so, that is at the forefront of our minds as we think about how we're going to grow, how we're going to evolve. And AI, I mean, we have to continue to educate and learn about AI and think about how we can use it internally for our organization as well as externally, and how we can help our clients navigate. Because again, nobody totally has this figured out yet, uh, but there's a lot that we can be doing to help our clients navigate as we go forward. So we're doing the best that we can to try to stay on top of it.
Absolutely. Michelle, you gave a ton of advice, tons of gems. I've been laughing the whole time, so I want to thank you for that. Where can the audience find you? Social media, website?
Sure. LinkedIn, Michelle Baum, or our website is the Nova Method, so thenovamethod.com.
Perfect. Again, it was a pleasure having you. Audience, thanks for tuning in, and we'll talk to you guys soon.
Thanks, Jordan.